livealittlehigher.com. This week we enter a new month, the month of Cheshvan, Mar Cheshvan, and the name combination for this month of Cheshvan comes from the verse, "Gaze down from your holy abode, from the heavens, and bless your people Israel and the ground that you have given us. As you swore to our forefathers, a land flowing with milk and honey. This day Hashem your God commands you to perform these decrees and statutes, and you shall observe and perform them with all your heart and with all your soul." And this is in Devarim. So let us analyze the connection between these verses and the month of Cheshvan. Actually, it's a beautiful verse and it's sweet to the ears. And in reality, Cheshvan, this month of Cheshvan, is known as Mar Cheshvan. It's not a month that is connected to sweetness like Rosh Hashanah, like Tishrei. It's a month that is actually Mar. It comes from the word bitter. It's a month in which the Mabul took place, the flood. It's a month in which our Ima, Rachel Imeinu, passed away. And we would think, okay, it's a bitter month. Why would the Torah be connecting it to sweet, pleasant honey, which represents completely the opposite from bitterness? So there's a sefer, there's a book called HaTodah, which is giving great gratitude. And this book has two explanations from this prefix of Mar, bitterness, of Mar Cheshvan. And it says, there are no festivals in the month of Cheshvan and no reasons to rejoice. So this is the only month in the whole year where there's nothing. Nothing happened today in this month. Nothing happens. Like the joke of the guy that looks so happy, and the friend says, "Oh wow, you look so happy, what happened?" And he says, "Well, I won the lottery, I'm so happy." "Oh, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem." And then he sees it a month later and he says, "Oh, you look so happy, what happened?" "Oh, I had a baby, I had a child." "Oh, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov." And then he sees him another month and he looks so happy. "Oh wow, what happened this month?" And he says, "No, imagine, I got a great new business, I'm so happy." "Oh, Mazel Tov, Baruch Hashem." Then he sees him another month and he looks so happy. He says, "Why are you so happy?" He says, "No, and I went on a beautiful trip." And like that, and so on and so on. And suddenly he comes to a month and he sees his friend, he looks depressed. So strange, he's always happy, what happened? And he goes to him and says, "What happened to you? You look so sad." And he says, "This month, nothing." So it's a joke, and this month of Cheshvan is like that. It's like, we have all these months, especially the supercharged month of Tishrei, in which we just came out. That is a whole month of holidays. Every month of the Jewish year has something. You have Hanukkah, you have Tu B'Shvat, you have Purim, you have Pesach, you have the counting of the Omer, Lag BaOmer, you have Shavuot. And there's even months in which it's not so happy. You have the month of Av, which we're crying, but then you have Tu B'Av, which is happy, and so on. And every month there's something going on. And the month of Cheshvan is a month in where there's nothing happening. So historically, Cheshvan has been a month of hardship. In world history, we had the flood. It's a month in which Yeravam ben Nebat, the first king of the 10 tribes who seceded from David HaMelech's dynasty, he created a new festival because, all the tribes divided, and he created this new festival that took over Sukkot so the Jews wouldn't travel to the Beit HaMikdash, and he made Jews worship other gods, and it was a disaster. And then we have in history other things that happened on this month, like I said, the death of our matriarch. So we see that that is a month that is, there's an array of events. Some are positive. We have some positive events also on this month. We have also good things happen. But in conclusion, we see that Benjamin was born on this month, the day that his mother died, Rachel, but Benjamin was born. And it says that the first Beit HaMikdash was concluded on the month of Mar Cheshvan, and it also says that Hashem left this month with no holidays, specifically because this is the month in which we're gonna inaugurate the third temple. So we see that there's two aspects of this month, of our work on this month. And it's this book, which is beautiful, that is written by Zvi Reisman, The Wisdom in the Hebrew Months. He explains that we will not succeed in our service of Hashem if we try to perfect ourselves in all areas at once. What he's saying is that each month comes with itself brings with itself a special energy that helps us, that boosts, it's like a vitamin that helps us work on a certain aspect of our lives. That when a person tries to reach the sky all in one day, he's not going to be successful. So each month directs our focus to a specific form of service, and which is uniquely suited for that month. And we see that that during the first 2 months of the Jewish calendar, which is Tishrei, which we just left, and the month of Cheshvan, we're called upon to concentrate on different but complementary forms of service. So we saw that in Rosh Hashanah, our service was to accept Hashem, was to coronate the king, also to remember, it's a holiday in which we remember why Hashem created the world and what is the purpose of us being in this world. Then on Yom Kippur, we atoned, we asked forgiveness, Hashem gave us forgiveness. And then on Sukkot, it's the time of our gladness, Simha, Seman Simhateinu, is the time in which we rejoice about the clouds of glory that protected the Jewish people in the desert when the Jewish people came out of Egypt. And then we come to Shemini Atzeret, which is a day of assembly. It's a day in which we eat one more day in the Sukkah. It's a day in which Hashem asks us to be with Him one more day. I read something beautiful. It says that in Sukkot, you're inside the Sukkah, and in Shemini Atzeret, the Sukkah is inside of you. This is what that day is. You live with that feeling. And Simchas Torah, which is the final festival in this month of Tishrei, which in Israel is celebrated both with Shemini Atzeret, is the day in which we rejoice with our Torah. We dance with it, we rejoice with it. And so clearly, the emphasis of the month of Tishrei was on perfecting our relationship with Hashem. With Hashem, with our friends, we had to ask forgiveness to them also, and also with ourselves. But during the month of Cheshvan, on the other hand, the emphasis of Israel's avodah, our work, shifts on the relationship between us and our fellow, with other human beings. And this highlighted by the fact that Cheshvan is the first month of the calendar in the year, which we celebrate Rosh Chodesh. So we know that the year is divided in two. You have the month of Nisan, which is really, we could say, is the birth of a nation. So it's counted as the first month. This Cheshvan is actually counted as the 8th month in the calendar, but in reality, I'm sorry. Nisan is the 7th month, and Cheshvan is the second month, because Tishrei is the first month. So although the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Chodesh, which is Rosh Hashanah, on this Rosh Chodesh, we don't do the service of Rosh Chodesh. You don't do Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. You don't the Shabbat before Tishrei. You don't do the blessing of the new moon. The month is blessed by God Himself, and so we don't do anything. We don't do Yael ve'Yavo, which we usually do every Rosh Chodesh. So we see that the month of Tishrei is a month that stands by itself, and in Cheshvan is the first month of the year in which we keep Rosh Chodesh. It's a very important, it's the first Rosh Chodesh of the year. So the Talmud notes an apparent contradiction in the Torah description of the sun and the moon. There's a story of the sun and the moon. It's a very important story. It's the story in which these two luminaries were created, and they were the same size. They were the same size, and the moon said to Hashem, like, why are we the same size? It can't be that there can be two kings. It doesn't exist. Like, if both of us are gonna be the same size, sharing a crown, it's not gonna work. So Hashem felt that the moon had been arrogant. And so Hashem said to the moon, go and make yourself small. Make yourself smaller, like go and become humble. And because I raised a valid point, countered the moon, must I shrink myself? Like I'm not saying anything that is crazy. Like, how do you expect two luminaries to rule the world? So the Talmud goes into a great deal in describing Hashem's effort to compensate the moon for its loss in stature and the moon's refusal to be consoled, and until Hashem finally said, please bring an atonement offering for me for shrinking the moon. And this is why the Torah describes the atonement sacrifice of Rosh Chodesh as an atonement for Hashem. And the Talmud concludes that in the Beit HaMikdash, the he-goat offered on Rosh Chodesh atones for Hashem's command that the moon should shrink itself. So we see incredibly that Hashem has such mercy even for the luminaries. And Rosh Chodesh is a monthly opportunity for us to reflect on the lessons of this passage from the Talmud. If Hashem was so careful to assuage the feelings of the moon, which is inanimate, is not a person, how much more should we be careful to treat other human beings with respect and honor? And this is what this Rosh Chodesh is telling us. And it's interesting because also the class of the parasha is also talking about this situation, about how careful we have to be with others. And Rosh Chodesh should serve as a reminder to be humble. So we see that that we have to learn really in this month, the energy of this month really is to focus on being kind to other people, being careful with what we say, how we say it, to not make other people feel bad, to, on the other hand, make them feel good. And we can understand that that's the way in which we really honor this month. We can understand why we do not celebrate Rosh Chodesh Tishrei in the same manner as we celebrate Rosh Chodesh the rest of the year. On Rosh Hashanah, we focus on our efforts towards our relationship with Hashem and not on our relationship with others. On Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan is our first opportunity to focus on those relationships and employ the lessons of Rosh Chodesh in our daily interactions. So I heard a beautiful story of Rabbi Pesach Kron, in which he's telling the story of this family from Harnof in Israel, in Jerusalem, who liked to take their children on a trip every year. They had 7 kids, and they were not rich people, so they didn't even own a car. So once a year they saved up, they rented a van, they took the kids through Israel, the mother cooked all the meals, she brought them with her so they wouldn't spend money on food, and they took the kids to have experiences and be with the parents, but in a simple way. So they come first to Netanya. It's a beautiful city in the north. They come to Netanya and they go to the beach and they put a blanket on the sand, and she brings out the picnic and they sit there and the children are playing and they're having fun and they have their sandwiches. And when they're ready to go, one of the children tells the father that he needs to go to the bathroom. And the father is looking for a bathroom and he sees no bathrooms. And there's a restaurant in the corner. It's a kosher restaurant. So he goes inside with this child. He tells the rest of the family to wait for him in the van. He goes into the restaurant with his child. He feels bad because he's not going to eat there. doesn't feel well to go and use a bathroom if he's not gonna use the facility, but it's for his kid, and he tells the waitress, the lady that's there, the receptionist, that the boy needs to use a bathroom, that if it would be okay if they use the bathroom. And she looks, it's a boy, you know, so she says, yeah, sure, go use the bathroom. So when they come out, they're ready to leave the restaurant, and suddenly one of the waiters comes up to him and says, what? You just came in to use this bathroom? You're not gonna have dinner here? That's all religious Jews, you're the same. You come, you use the bathroom, you leave, you don't even eat here. This is horrible, you don't do that, whatever. He was screaming at him. And this man looks at the receptionist that allowed him to come into the restaurant, and he sees her face, and she looks like she's ready to faint. Because he knows that if he says, oh, she let me use it, she's gonna be in trouble. So he said to the man, who says we're not gonna eat here? Why do you say that? I was going out to tell my family to come in. And the man changed, and he says, wow, you're gonna eat here? And he says, yes, we're gonna eat here. And the little boy, he like bumps him, like, keep quiet. And he says to the boy, go to the car and tell everybody to come in. And he tells the guy, like, we're 9. So they sat down. He tells the children, okay, each one of you can order one thing, and we're gonna eat here. It's a gift. So they sit, each kid orders one thing, they're very careful in what they're ordering, and suddenly he sees a commotion in the kitchen, he can hear things going on, and he asks the waiter if he can bring him the check. And the waiter says, no dessert. He says, no, we're okay, we're only the check, we're in a hurry. He sees a commotion in the kitchen, what's going on, and suddenly he sees they're coming out with cakes and ice cream for the children. And he tells the waiter, I'm sorry, but we didn't order this. And so the owner of the restaurant comes out. And it happened to be that this waitress, when he saw that the man sat the kids, the family of 9, to have dinner so she wouldn't be shamed and she wouldn't lose her job, was so careful to take care of her, she went running into the kitchen and she couldn't stop crying that someone had done something like that for her, that there was such a kind person. And so they all said, okay, let's do something for them. And the owner of the restaurant came out, and he says to the man, we know what you did, and in reality we want to treat you. So when the check comes, the owner says to the man, he says, oh, the next time you come, it's 50% off. And when the man opened the check, he sees it's 0 balance, nothing. He doesn't know anything. They gave him everything. So he says to the owner, no, I have to pay. We ate here. We used your facility. We had dinner. Give me the check. He says, the truth is there's a policy in this restaurant that we don't charge malachim. Malachim is angels. And we don't charge malachim. And since you are a malachim, we don't charge you. So we see that when a person is careful about not damaging someone else, is careful, goes above and beyond. Like this man didn't even have the money to pay for this meal. I don't know how he was going to pay for it, but he has no money for that. But he was willing to have a loss, a monetary loss, instead of making someone lose their job. Hashem retributed to him. So I want to wish you a blessed week. We should really be kind to everyone we meet. We might not be thinking the same way as other people. We might maybe not live the same way as other people. But kindness is something that can always be applied to everybody. A smile, you smile to someone, you say good morning, you say how are you. You're careful, you're caring about other people. Kindness is something beautiful. And that's what the world needs today, more kindness. So let's use the energy of this month, the energy of kindness. You know, our matriarch, Rachel, she was supposed to marry Jacob. He worked for her for 7 years. And then the day of the wedding, she realized the father was going to put the sister instead of her because she was the oldest. And she didn't want her sister to be humiliated. And for her, it was more important that the sister would not be humiliated than for her to marry her beloved Yaakov. And she gave the signs to her sister in order for her to marry the love of her life. He had to work for her for 7 more years to be able to marry her. And it was a situation, but we see that's why Rachel is not buried in Kaver Machpelah, where all our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried. She's alone in Bethlehem, in the road through Bethlehem. If you ever go to Israel, it's worth going to visit her and pray in that very holy place. And Hashem, she died in the middle of nowhere because that's her job. Her job is to pray for her children, to give us strength, and she's sacrificed herself for the welfare of the Jewish people. So we can feel that our mother, our Ima, Rachel, is there for us. So the same way, the Jewish people, we have this in our DNA. We have this in our genetic makeup of kindness and be merciful and kind towards others. We should exercise it even more, a little more. The vitamin pill of this month, Cheshvan, is kindness. So we see also in the parasha how Noah treated the animals with kindness. Everything is about kindness. So everything goes back to that. So I wish you a blessed month, and remember, live a little higher. Thank you.